All right, Mr. Clerk, it's 7:14. I'm going to call this special meeting of council to order. We have our first item, which is a bylaw. It's recommended that the following bylaw be enacted. Actually, and before I get to that, I got to read a statement for anyone that's watching. Good evening, everyone. During these unprecedented times, it is imperative that we continue to take all steps necessary to promote the health and safety of all residents, including our council. So tonight's special council meeting is being held electronically to maintain social distancing. Through recent amendments made to the Municipal Act, council may now conduct electronic meetings when an emergency is declared by the province or municipality. Before we begin, I want to go over the procedures for tonight's meeting. These procedures can be found in Appendix A of Item 1, the Procedural Bylaw Amendment. Councillors are attending this meeting via video. This is to ensure quorum requirements are met and for voting purposes. All staff who usually attend our council meetings are also in attendance via phone or audio connection. If a councillor would like to speak to an item, they are able to signal through Zoom meeting software. Myself and the clerk will keep track of who is speaking and for how long. Like our usual council meetings, each councillor will be allowed to speak 2 times per item for a maximum of 5 minutes each time. All votes will be verbal recorded votes and will be facilitated by the clerk. And this is a public meeting that is, well, it's not being live streamed, unfortunately, due to technical difficulties. But if you have any questions or comments for council or staff regarding any of the items discussed tonight, I encourage you to email them to clerks@aurora.ca. All right, council, so back to item number 1, which is a bylaw to amend bylaw number 6228-19 to govern the proceedings of council and committee meetings, and that the following bylaw be enacted. Would someone like to move that? And a seconder? Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Gallo. Any comments or questions on this bylaw? Councillor Gardner?
I just need some clarification. It says 20.1, emergency meeting during a declared emergency. There is no definition of emergency meeting in the list of definitions. So what I'm wondering, and it is farther down, are we talking about meetings only for emergency subjects, or are we also going to be allowing meetings to discuss town business and move the town business forward?
I will ask Mr. Nadaroznia, our CAO. Doug?
Yes, sir. So this, as we know it, this allows for the holding of any council meeting. So we anticipate that in time we will be able to move more regular business forward through this mechanism as well.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. I would be more comfortable if we had in 20.1 emergency meeting or any electronic meetings as required. Or I don't know, to me emergency meetings just sounds to me like when we have something emergency to discuss. If everybody else is comfortable with that, then I'm okay. I think it's not quite named properly.
Mr. CAO?
I don't have the wording in front of me, but we can adjust that if it needs an amendment.
It just says emergency meeting during a declared emergency.
No, what I mean is I don't have the through you, Mr. Chair. I don't have the whole text of the
Oh, okay.
Of the declaration, so I'm not sure if that's the only thing in there that refers to meetings, or my understanding is that this provision that the province has now enabled is for councils to meet during a declared emergency. So right. I get your comment is it only for emergency meetings? That's not my understanding. So if the wording needs to be tweaked, we'll we'll tweak that. My understanding is that it's for any meeting of council during a declared emergency.
Thank you. And that's what it does say if you go down farther. I'm just saying that the way we've named it is it doesn't provide clarity that we can do that we can do any meetings. But I'm fine if everybody else is fine.
Councillor Gardner, I'll just add in that I think that if we'll just clean up the language, but the intent is from watching what the province did is that as long as it's a declared emergency by the municipality or by the province, then we are able to hold remote meetings during that emergency declaration. And once we lift the emergency status of the town or the province, then we would no longer be able to do a remote meeting. And that's my understanding. So if it just needs some language cleaning up within the bylaw, I'm sure staff will just change some of the wording to reflect what the province is intending on this bylaw.
Thank you. And maybe it would be more correct to say during declared emergencies, the holding of electronic meetings. Something like that would just provide clarification. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I have Councillor Humphreys.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I'm supportive of this. Obviously, we need to continue to move town business forward. So I think it's great that we enact this and that we can, it looks like, when we have an emergency situation or the guidelines that we have, I'm sure behind it wasn't the thought process that this would be quite a situation globally and probably as long lasting as it may be. So I think it's great that we're enacting this so that we can continue to do work moving forward outside of emergency procedures and recommendations to protect our residents from COVID-19. So I think it's great that we're putting this forward and looking forward to just moving again town business until we get back to normal mode of operation. So thanks. Just a comment.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Thompson.
I think in speaking to Wendy's concerns, you got to look at the clause in its entirety. If you look at 20.1B, electronic meetings, it states that a regular meeting or special meeting of council may be conducted by electronic meeting during an emergency in accordance with this section and any emergency electronic meeting protocol as may be approved. I think that clarifies the definitions, the terms, and the fact that we can use this means to conduct our regular council GC meetings and move the town's business forward if need be.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor, anyone else for the first time before I go back to Councillor Gardner for the second? Oh, Councillor Gallo, just saw you. Go ahead, Councillor Gallo.
Yeah, thank you. I'm okay with this. I think it allows us to do exactly what we're doing, and I like the fact that regardless of if the town of Aurora declared an emergency, a state of emergency, as long as the province has, so we may in the near future, if we can continue to have these meetings, remove that from the town's perspective, but still continue to do this under the auspices of the province declaring an emergency. So I'm all in favor of this.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Councillor Gardner, second time.
Thank you. And when you and I were talking about whether the province would allow electronic meetings, I mean, it's an unprecedented step. And I think it's great for us as a town because, as Councillor Humphrey said, this may last a while and we do have town business that we need to carry forward. So I'm very pleased to see this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Humphreys, did you want to speak again, or did you just leave your hand up? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, so I am going to unmute you all and call the vote. Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Recorded vote for the procedural bylaw amendment on the first item on this evening's agenda. Mr. Mayor, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Kim?
Yes.
Counselor Thompson,
Yes.
Counselor Gilliland,
Yes.
Counselor Gallo,
Yes.
Counselor Gartner,
Yes.
and Counselor Humphreys.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you.
Unanimously.
Yes. So, Council, we are going to move to the approval of the agenda. Someone like to move and second that? Moved by Councillor Kim, second. Councillor Humphreys, any comments or questions? Councillor Gilliland. Go ahead.
Thank you. I was just wondering if we were able to add new business to the agenda. I feel some of us may have some to contribute, given the nature of the situation that we're in. Some residents have reached out, and I can't speak for my colleagues, but I know that some residents have reached out to me, and it just gives us all an opportunity to maybe speak a little bit more candid.
Sure, you can add it on and we can vote on it as part of the as an amendment to the approval of the agenda as amended. That's fine. I'll just remind council that new business is to actually bring new business forward, not to just make statements. So if we follow that logic, then I don't think there's any issue. So did you want to put forward that amendment, Councillor?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Someone like to second that? Councillor Kim? I'm just going to ask Mr. Clerk, do we need to do this separate as an amendment, or can we just tie it into the approval of the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'm comfortable with just tying it into the approval of the agenda. Right now, the motion on the screen is that the new business section be added.
Perfect. So we'll just tie it in. So I will then just go to the original mover and seconder. We have the, we're going to add new business into the approval of the agenda. Councillor Gallo, did you still want to speak to it? Oh, one sec. Here, let me. Go ahead. Councillor Gallo?
I just have a question in terms of the entire agenda, but not necessarily the amendment. But I just want to confirm that it's a standard agenda, just so the public is aware. We haven't really changed anything other than that one item, and we're conducting business as usual.
Mr. Clerk? Through you, Mr. Mayor, just one clarification to Councillor Gallo. It's generally the same agenda, the notice provisions and everything like that. It is the items in a special council agenda are different than a council agenda, so the items aren't quite the same. But for all intents and purposes, other than that, it's a normal council meeting that the decisions are binding.
Councillor Gallo?
I want to confirm that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gardner, you want to speak to this?
Not the amendment.
Yeah. Well, it's not really an amendment. We're just adding it on to the
We're
approval.
adding it on. I found that the added items, they didn't follow the process that we usually have with respect to the notice period and with respect to actually what's in those added items. I'm not comfortable with having them on the agenda.
Which added items, Councillor?
All of the added items.
The standing committee reports, you mean?
Well, there's no information on each of those items. There's no information on those or on the S item, and it's quite different from how we usually do the process. So I'm not comfortable with having them on the agenda as they stand.
Well, Councillor, you're more than welcome to, after, if the agenda doesn't get approved, you could defer all of them if you wanted to. That would be up to you.
Thank you. They're not in the appropriate format, and the appropriate notice wasn't given, so I won't be voting for the agenda as it is.
Okay, and I'll defer to the clerk. Mr. Clerk, did we follow the proper process?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we would probably prefer that the GC items didn't get included as an add-on, but the council is still able to deal with them tonight without making any waivers of procedure or anything like that.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo, second time.
Just on that note, I too feel somewhat uncomfortable with the GC being added on yesterday. I'm happy it's there because I think it should be there. But I'm prepared to take a look at those items, and once they come up, there's one in particular that I have an issue with discussing tonight, and I would be prepared to defer that to another meeting. That's just how I feel. There might be two, but one for sure, and there may be others that others have them, and I'd be supportive if others have issues with some of the items and they want to defer them.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Councillor Kim, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Clark. I'm not sure if I'm missing something, but but in every council meeting we do discuss if someone pulls it, the GC item. So what's so different about item S1, which is essentially the GC items?
Mr. Clark?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, nothing except for the notice, which has been pointed out. We just usually put the GC report on, and council has the right to pull any item for further discussion that they wish.
Councillor Kim?
Okay, so my interpretation, nothing's really changed. This is the norm. So I'm still a little bit confused as to what the change is, other than maybe the notice period. But everyone knows that we discuss GC items or we ratified them in council. So I'm still a little bit confused about that, but I'm happy to discuss S1.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Gilliland, second time. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
In regards to the S1, I understand it was last minute, and I think to Councillor Gartner and Councillor Gallo's point, I know there was a couple items on there that during this time in communicating perhaps maybe with staff and what the protocols were, we were all wrapped up in trying to ensure that we moved the town or the business forward in the state of emergency that we were. And I wonder if, as Councillor Gallo pointed out, if there were items there we were comfortable to move forward, and anything else we wanted to discuss today, we could defer that to the next meeting, because this was considered a special meeting of council, not necessarily council. And I think we didn't have that expectation that we're going to be pulling anything tonight. I think I have a feeling I know some of the items that we wanted to talk to you about tonight, and I think Councillor Gallo, there was some items on that pending list perhaps maybe need a little more clarity, and I don't know if you're able to do any backdoor homework because in light of what has been going on. And so I'm wondering if maybe it would be in our best interest if we could just partially move some things forward and defer other things, so it allows us some time to communicate with staff and reach out and then be able to ask those questions.
Thank you, Councillor. Just to let everyone know, I mean, it's just like any other meeting. We can pull an item, and when you pull it, if you want to defer it, put the motion forward to defer it, and we can defer it. We can vote on it, and if it gets deferred, it gets deferred. So it's no different than any other meeting that we do. You're more within your rights to put a motion forward to defer any item. You just need to pull it. So we're still following the proper process. Just if that's what you want to do, if you want to defer an item, by all means, put forward that motion and defer it if that's what you so choose, and then we'll put it to a vote. Okay, Councillor? Thank you. Councillor Gardner, second time.
Did I thought I'd already spoken a second time.
Actually, yes, you did. Sorry. So I'm going to mute you again.
Yeah.
Councillor Kim, second time.
I'm good. I didn't put up my hand.
Oh, you didn't put it down? Thank you. All right.
Okay, that's right.
Thank you. All right. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda with new business. So I will unmute you all and I will call the vote. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Record a vote for the item of agenda approval tonight. Councillor Thompson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson votes yes. Councillor Gartner?
No.
Councillor Kim?
Yes.
Mayor Marakis?
Yes.
Councillor Humphreys?
Yes.
Councillor Gilliland?
No.
Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Council, is there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. So we will move to number, oh, sorry, no, well, we have no, actually, we had a couple of emails. Mr. Clerk, how do you want to deal with those emails that came in?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, they're just for council consideration. We're working on for future meetings where we might have you read some of these emails in the record if they're specific delegation requests. But right now, we don't know if the senders of the emails want their thoughts in a council meeting. So at this time, it's just for council consideration privately.
Okay, thank you. So we have no delegations at this time, so I'll move to number 5, which is standing committee reports. Does anyone want to pull anything? Councillor Gardner.
No, sorry, I'm waiting. Okay, we are on S, right?
We're on S1, yes.
So S1 R5, I believe that one of the things received by the clerk was in lieu of a delegation.
Okay, so so you want to pull S1 R5?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Is there anything else from you, Councillor?
No, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else would like to pull something? Is that the only one? Okay, can I get a motion to approve all items from General Committee report of March 3rd, 2020 minus S1 R5? Moved by Councillor Humphrey, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gardner, you still have your hand. Did you want to speak? Councillor Gardner, you have your hand up.
Okay, I'll put it down.
Okay, sorry. Thank you. All right, I will unmute you guys and Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Record vote for the items of the standing committee report with the exception of R5. Councillor Gartner?
Yes.
Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
Mayor Maracus?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Kim?
Yes.
Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
And Councillor Humphreys.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Council, we're going to move to items requiring discussion. We will start with S1 R5. Mr. Clerk, you're going to get that on the screen. Thank you. It's the application for Starlight Investments, 145, 147 Wellington Street West. Someone like to move the recommendation in second? Moved by Councillor Kim, second. Councillor Thompson. Comments or questions? Councillor Gardner first.
Thank you. I'm a little bit not clear. Now that we've changed to the new system, my understanding was that this is not a regular meeting. So if this would not be discussed until the council meeting. In any case, the delegation is concerning this report, and we all got a letter from this delegate. I think it was the 7th of March, the 6th of March maybe, and Mr. Waters did respond to it a few days later. The concern of the residents who live in this development, Wellington Towers, is that the information they gave to us on the parking, the information that they gave to us at the public meetings on the parking is not at all reflected in the report from March 3rd. And there's great concern about that. And the residents have asked that we go back and do some more work on this. So I'm not, unfortunately, I don't have, well, I don't know if the delegation was sent just to the clerk or to all of us.
Counselor, we all got it.
So I'm assuming this is the response from the residents to the report R5.
Mhm.
It's a little tricky because normally they would come before us and we would know in public what their views were. That's not going to happen. I think that they have some valid concerns, and I would like to know how this is going to proceed. And we all know what the residents said in the public meeting. Actually, I think one of them, perhaps Councillor Gilliland and Councillor Gallo, weren't present for. I'm not sure if this just came to us in the current term. But they did express their concerns initially to us. They told us what they believed the parking numbers were, as reflected by the parking stickers that they get from the management office. And the numbers that they present are not agreeing with the numbers that the developer has presented. So I would like to know how we proceed with this. Does it go to a council meeting when the council meeting comes up?
Well, Councillor, this is a council meeting, so we either vote and we approve it, or we deny it, or you could defer it, or you could refer it.
Okay, wait a second. This is a special council meeting.
Any decision we make tonight is considered a ratified decision.
Okay, then I'm asking council, please, to defer this item.
So you'd like to put an amendment to defer this?
Yes, please. We need to check out the parking figures. If we have a disagreement between the developer and the residents, I think we owe it to the residents to make sure that the approval for a zoning bylaw amendment is based on accurate information. The consultant's report was an estimate of what was happening, in their opinion, at the point in time where they were looking at the situation. Whereas the residents live there, they know on the ground day by day what's going on with the parking. And because there is such a divergence in the statistics, the numbers presented by the two groups, I think we need to defer this and have a better look at it to make sure that we do this right.
So you want to put a deferral? That's the amendment?
That's the amendment.
Okay, would someone like to second that? Councillor Gallo? To the deferral. Do all those hands want to speak to the deferral? All right, Councillor Gallo. One sec. Go ahead.
Thank you. For me, it's pretty simple. This is a council meeting, and I think we have every right to approve this if we so choose. However, I don't have a public in front of me, and that's my biggest holdup. That there is some new information, and there may be information that I'm not even aware of because we're not able to give the public an opportunity to communicate to us. So for that single reason, I would want to defer it until we can get it in front of a proper council agenda that the public is able to communicate with us and let us know their views. I don't have an issue with any of the other items because some are to receive, some make sense to me, and this is a zoning bylaw, public planning application, and I just do not feel comfortable approving this without giving the public a chance, their rightful chance to communicate their thoughts, and we can't unfortunately do that in this venue.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Humphreys.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we received some additional information after that meeting. So one of the things I'd like, and I'm in support of the deferral, only for staff to take a really good look at the parking strategy. And one of the things I mentioned that evening as well, I was a little bit concerned of the spaces that would be temporarily removed. I think there's about 75 of them that'll affect 75 families. I think there was some negotiations in the work for the parking to be displaced. Some of my concerns is, how far from the building and what will be accommodated for individuals that need to walk, a block or two to get to their homes. So I appreciate all of the application other than this piece of it. I love the changes that they had recommended to us, and they've done a lot of good work. I don't want to discount that, but I do, would like staff to sit down with the developer and go back to the initial work that was done back when it came to a public planning session. There was a lot of work with I believe the property management team as well, and how parking was arranged. And I think it was sort of lost in that last presentation. I didn't seem to correlate. So unfortunately, we got this information after the fact. So I would appreciate a deferral for staff to work with developer to really understand conclusively what will happen with this parking arrangement, and that the people who will have displaced parking be accommodated is best as possible. So that's my thoughts, and I appreciate the deferral to get that done while to get this back on track. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, given the environment that we're in with COVID-19, I suspect that deferring it will not really delay any real type of construction, given that there's a cessation of construction everywhere. Through you to Mr. Waters. Mr. Waters, can you confirm whether deferring it for one cycle, a month, will delay anything with respect to Starlight?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, all processes under the Planning Act have been suspended during the emergency.
Councillor?
Thank you. Well, in that case, I mean, especially, the resident came up with these concerns. There's no sense of immediacy right now, given the environment. So I'd be all for deferring for another cycle while the resident group and Starlight work out the parking plan.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Thompson.
Similar to Councillor Kim, I just wanted to see us put a time frame on it. I'm fine with deferring it to the next council meeting, which is at the end of April. But I would remind council we have a legal requirement to make a decision. And if you don't support the parking numbers, then council's within its right to say no. And we will just deny it and let the Starlight take it to LPAT and decide there what's going to happen going forward. But I don't like being it deferred open-ended like that. So let's do it to the next cycle. And if the emergency is no longer in place and we can have meetings in public, then great. If not, we can make a decision then.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Thompson. I was similarly thinking that as well. And I was hoping through you, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Waters, if you could kind of help me remember what was said after the fact in an email about the parking and the discrepancy. From what I understood, there was no parking spots that were being lost, but there was some different numbers being presented. And I was just wondering if you could just kind of reiterate that communication.
Hi, Councillor. We're speaking specifically to the deferral. So, I mean, if we want to speak to the actual item, then I understand. But that question, we're starting to get into the item. We're just solely
I just wanted to understand, like, if I just want to kind of refresh my memory on it, if there was really a need to defer it based on, from my understanding, the parking, they weren't losing any parking. And I'm trying to understand the merit of the deferral based on that specific question.
Well,
just a quick answer. I just wanted to know what was it that actually was the discrepancy that the residents were saying from the first meeting to the second meeting.
basically they're saying there's about 20 spots. So
spots, and was it because people had moved out, and then so they weren't accounting for those spots? The people who hadn't, the new people that had moved in, the rules had changed. I just can't remember what that exact reason was.
I'll allow it, but a little leeway, but we're not really speaking to the deferral right now. But Mr. Waters?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try to answer the councillor's question this way. I think there's been a discrepancy all along between the residents or the renters and the property manager. I believe the residents have one number in mind, and the property, and through this, there's been 3 studies undertaken for this, for the parking study, with on-site surveys done in 17, 18, and an updated one in January 2019. So, they've come up with different numbers. I'm not sure where the residents get their number from. They dispute what's in the parking study, but the parking study is actually being done by a qualified transportation engineer. And that study's been reviewed by staff and supported by staff.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay, great. That answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys still have your hands up. Do you guys want to speak? Or did you guys forget to put them down? Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. The residents have got their numbers from the number of.
Councillor, I'm going to stop because we're not, if we're speaking to the
Okay.
deferral, then we'll speak
Well,
to
I'm replying to Mr. Waters.
the item. We can speak to the item when we have it in front of us. You've asked to defer it,
Thank
so
you.
that's what we're speaking to.
Thank you. And just to confirm that it's the right decision, the number of accessible parking spots the developer wants to provide is 4. If you look at our parking requirements, it should be 8. And in any case, the 4 spots are all in front of one of the buildings, and there is nothing in front of the other building. So I do think it needs to have another look.
Thank you. I will open the mic. So we're going to be actually, Council, and because it was mentioned, does anyone want to put a date to this? Does the mover and seconder want to put a date to this, to the next council meeting, or did you just want to leave it open-ended to a future council meeting? Councilor Gardner?
I think the next council meeting, do we know when the next council meeting is going to be?
Well, we're
And
hoping
will there
for,
be a GC before that?
well, this wouldn't need to go to GC because it's already been dealt with at GC.
Okay.
Council meeting, and we're hoping for that council meeting to be at the end of the month, unless obviously we don't know in this climate what could occur. So we're hopeful, but we'll see.
Then I like Councillor Thompson's suggestion of putting a date on it for the next council meeting.
So to defer to the next council meeting. Councillor Gallo, you okay with that as a seconder? Yeah.
I'm okay with that, but just a caveat, if it's not a public meeting, I won't be supporting it, and I'll run the risk of being on the side of the public that they're not in attendance and have the developer go to LPAC. I mean, it has to be in front of the public.
Okay. So I will call the vote. Mr. Clerk, did you get that change? Deferred to the next council meeting?
Yes, sir, we got it, and it's been added to the screen right now.
Thank you. So I will call the vote.
Okay, recorded vote for the deferral of item R5 from tonight's agenda. Mayor Marakis,
Yes.
Councillor Gilland,
Yeah.
Councillor Gallo,
Yes.
Councillor Kim,
Yes.
Councillor Thompson,
Yes.
Councillor Gardner,
Yes,
Councillor Humphreys,
Yes.
motion carries.
unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So next we have R1, which is COVID-19 staffing implications and verbal update from our CAO. So would someone like to move and second that just to get it on the floor, and then I'll pass it to our CAO. Moved by Councillor Gilliland, second, Councillor Humphreys. Mr. CAO, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we did attach a bit of a staff report for information, just sort of giving an overview to council of where we stand, an overview to council and the public where we stand. Most of the things in that report council would have been aware of as we gave updates through that period. But to quickly recap, all facilities now pretty much are closed. We have minimal staff in all of our buildings, and only those staff that are required to go in there to keep the functioning of the core services that we're continuing to provide. Want to assure everybody that all essential services are being provided. So, water testing, road patrols, those kinds of things that make sure that we have safe water and safe roads. Those are all being carried out in their normal frequency. And most full-time administrative office-based staff are now working from home. We have increased our bandwidth connections, and we've deployed some new technology, and we've managed to support a huge number of connections into our systems in Town Hall. And so that's actually working out very well, and congratulations go off to our IT staff for really putting that together very quickly, and there were really very few hiccups as we rolled it out. We are initiating longer-term work plans. As the latest announcement today that the schools will be shut down now till May 5th, first week in May. And the minister has already said that there could be further extensions depending on the advice of the health professionals. So we're taking our lead from the province in terms of timing horizons. And while we're comfortable that we have lots of work to do between now and the end of April for staff that are working from home, we are putting those plans down on paper, and we are bringing in a journal system to track the work that's being done so that we can quantify exactly what is being done as we all work from home. You may have seen actually just before this meeting, I believe around 5 o'clock tonight, that Toronto has announced that all events, all public events and festivals and so on are canceled now right through till June 30th. So that's one of the later dates that we've seen somebody commit to. And so we'll be having continuing conversations amongst our team. We are already talking about our events because obviously some of these events take quite a bit of time and preparation. And so we can't make a decision a week before the situation changes to all of a sudden hold the event. So we are working on a rolling strategy of cancellations based on the time that we would require to run a successful event. So you'll be getting more details about that as well. The intent tonight was for me to have even more details, though, on a coordinated approach from York Region municipalities with respect to adjustments to staffing for those areas where we don't have work under this situation. Unfortunately, those things have not progressed as much as we had hoped as a collective group in the region, and they're still being developed. There's some work being done on a category of leave called declared emergency leave, which is different than a layoff, and it's a special status for these sort of situations that allows us to adjust the working arrangement with staff without a layoff, and thereby not impacting things like seniority or benefits and those kinds of things. So we are working with the region and with the other municipalities. The HR groups are meeting on a regular basis, and the CEOs of the region have a meeting tomorrow where this will be discussed. But we are working on a coordinated approach and making sure that declared emergency leave is one of the tools that we have in our toolbox. We do have a bit of a deadline, and this is where we'd hope to have more information than I actually have tonight, but we at this point have made a commitment to our part-time staff that they would be paid until April 5th for the work that they were scheduled to do between the date of the emergency and April 5th. And we have indicated to them that we can't make a commitment beyond the 5th, and that they should be all sort of looking into their own arrangements with respect to employment insurance and those kinds of things. That being said, we still need to definitively decide how we're going to move forward. We are starting to see at the municipal level some job related activity or actions being taken with respect to part-time, because of course most of these programs and things that these people were doing are just simply not there, and it's not the kind of thing we can transfer to a work to home scenario. So, as I said, the regional CEOs are meeting tomorrow, and this is one of the items that's on top of our budget. The other thing that has come to light with respect to staffing and how we want to move forward, none of us have a crystal ball about how long this is going to last, and we're already starting to think forward, though, to the point where we're no longer in the shutdown mode that we're in. And the point was made that things, for example, like our fields, we can't just abandon them totally and then hope that they or expect them to perform for regular use in July, having not been maintained through the spring and the spring period in terms of cutting and some of the maintenance. So we are turning our mind to some work plans for bringing some of those people back to work, because we have, the province has clarified that governments are considered essential services. And so to the extent we want to have those facilities able to go online as soon as possible after this emergency status changes, there is some work that would need to be done. And so we're looking at bringing some work back to the workplace. Of course, that's complicated in an emergency situation involving health and safety, but we are working on all of those, angles. So unfortunately, depending on how this goes or what kinds of decisions we make, there may be the requirement for a special council meeting before the end of April if there's a specific plan that we want to enact. But for now, that's unfortunately all I can give you. It's a constant state of flux, and we're just rolling with the punches and trying to figure out how to move forward as municipal in the municipal environment overall. We will hope to have some sort of a statement or establish a position for our part-time workforce by the end of this week, though, so that we can deliver some clarity to them by the end of the week. That's all I have at this point, Mr. Mayor, but certainly willing to take any questions that I can.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Any comments or questions for our CEO? Councillor Gallo?
Yeah, I just had a question about staffing and if a decision needs to be made before the 5th. I don't think we're meeting before the 5th. So are we going to schedule something, or is that a decision that will be made outside of a council meeting?
Yeah.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, it really depends on what kind of angle we take. I mean, in the pure sense, I mean, we only call part-time people in when they have work for them, and we pay them for the work that they do. So there's no real requirement to not call people in. So where there might be some involvement to get council involved is if we decide we want to offer some kind of a assistance program or something that would that would be outside of our normal authority to. So for example, if we're going to make any kind of payment to these groups for not working, that might be something that we would have to bring to council. But if it's a straightforward adjustment of the workforce, then we manage part-time all the time, and there's people that have. I mean, there's already some part-time people, for example, that have already made application for employment insurance because they weren't scheduled for any shifts for the time being. Their program maybe doesn't start till May or June, and so they don't even have any work while they're on our payroll. So there's a whole different mix of scenarios in our part-time base.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, what about the rest of the organization? What is the status, and what are we doing about non-part-time employees?
Mr. CEO?
To you, Mr. Mayor, the rest of our people, with some exceptions, the rest of our people are working from home. Well, all of those people that that are in the office environment are right now working from home. And are all connected and have the full functionality of the systems that they use in their day-to-day. We have some limitations on accepting new work, for example, in the planning area and in the building permit area, but we're already thinking forward to being able to incrementally start to offer some of those application receiving processes and so on using electronic means. So we're not only doing the stuff that's already in the queue, but we're also trying to anticipate being able to, at least for some simple applications, be able to accept those. So those people are all working. We certainly don't have a full complement of work for some of our outside people and our facilities people. And that's one of the groups that we're trying to figure out how we want to deal with them. We also would normally bring a lot of students on board very soon. Of course, we're not bringing students in this situation, but we are looking at ways of using the people that we do have and maybe get some of that work that might have been covered by students if it's part of the essential list of things that we'd like to have done to get our facilities in shape for a recovery mode. Then we might look at changing some of the work assignments to accommodate that work as well. So our goal is to keep people working right now and to and keep them doing work that's of value to the corporation.
Councillor?
Thank you. And through you, and I don't want to go through too deep into this because you're still working it out. So I'm okay with that. My main concern is when decisions are being made, I'm still unclear as what council's role, under these unprecedented times are. My preference is that we have meetings and we make decisions as a council. But I just don't know because I don't know where that line is being drawn. Are things, under the emergency status, decisions are being made and we're not involved. I think if this, video conferencing is functioning properly, then we should be well aware and make decisions as a council. That's my perspective. But I don't want to go too deep into this issue if something is going to be coming to us, a memo or something else.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. CEO, thank you very much for your work. Excuse me, and all the staff's work. And I have been in touch by email or phone with many of the staff, so I know they're working. There is in this item, some staff concerns. You've covered the first one about job security. And the last one, longer term plan beyond April 6th. But there are two other concerns. One is protective gear and the other is safety of work areas, including town vehicles. Could you speak more to that, please?
Certainly through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we have made sure that we have proper protective equipment for all our employees. Right now, that has not been a problem. There's a couple of areas, some of the wipes and things that that our supply is dwindling. But now that most of our facilities, our facilities are shut down, our demand on those products has gone down significantly as well. With respect to vehicles and so on, we are arranging shifts and rotations of work in such ways that people are in committed vehicles. So it's basically the same person using the vehicle. And if it's not, then it's completely cleaned before it's redeployed to another employee. Some of the alternative work situations we're thinking of, for example, with regards to some of the outside work is asking employees to use their own car to go to the site where the work is being done, and the equipment would be brought to them. And then, so there's other methods like that we're employing to make sure that we always maintain the safe working distances in accordance to the recommendations that are being made by health authorities. So right now, personal protective equipment has not been a problem, and we are making we are absolutely making sure that people that are asked to work are working in a safe environment, respecting the distances and physical distancing overall.
Councillor?
Thank you very much. Do we have any problem with residents approaching town staff when they're out?
Mr. Sale?
To you, Mr. Mayor, there was a couple of very minor concerns raised by some of our inspectors and so on that were out in the field, but actually they were just looking for gloves, and and some of them were thinking that maybe that they should be wearing masks on a proactive basis, and we've allowed that where they feel more comfortable, but nothing of any significance that I'm aware of.
Good to know. Thank you.
Is that all, Councillor?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you so much for all your hard work and ensuring that staff's been well taken care of, and we've been able to protect them and be able to work remotely in such a smooth transition. I think you guys did a really good job, so I want to thank you for that. I don't know if this is the right time to bring this up, so I'm not really understanding the process when residents are emailing in, but I was wondering if maybe you were able to offer any comments to a resident who had emailed all of us in regards for discussion on some town borough workers to work in, I guess, the general area of the town, doing some cleanup and consider it cleanup, maintenance, repairs of some debris or garbage or anything that's within the town parks. I was wondering if you were able to offer any opinion to that.
Mr. Seo?
So I haven't seen the email that the councillor is speaking to, but in general, this is the kind of thing that we were just having conversations with today in terms of parks maintenance, grass cutting, debris pickup. I mean, if there's a problem, we are dealing with individual problems. So if there's a pothole that springs up or those kinds of things, or if we're aware of something that needs to be taken care of, we are deploying staff to take care of those things individually. We'll send a pickup truck and a person out. We have them all on call. But more generally, that's the kind of work that the kind of maintenance work that we're trying to come up with ways to bring more on stream over the next weeks as we get ready for summer.
Councillor?
Okay. Yeah, okay, so it sounds like we are sending employees out doing some, I guess they called it creative work, and more or less taking a bag and cleaning up some of the trails or debris and such, and that's something that we are trying to do, and the self-isolation and the social distancing that we're trying to advocate for. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Nadarozny. You know, Doug, I understand that you're still working through all the plans and there's lots to consider, but I guess in terms of a general premise, you know, are we making sure that anybody that's employed going forward is going to be adding value? And can you provide, I guess, some confirmation that we're going to ensure that nobody's staying home and doing nothing, that somehow, some way, anybody that's employed going forward will find a way for them to contribute to either the organization or the community?
Mr. Seo?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, absolutely. That is something that I have emphasized to the ELT, and they have in turn emphasized that with their employees, and to further make sure, especially as we prepare for the possibility of a longer situation than we'd all like, we are actually this week moving forward with actual work plans for those people that are working at home, and we will be journalizing the work that's being done and the time spent against those work plans, so that we can demonstrate clearly that that work of value is being done in the corporation.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner has her hand. Councillor Gardner, did you want to speak? Councillor Gardner?
I'm just thinking about it. No, I think I've finished speaking. Thank you.
Thank you. So Council, I'm thinking, Mr. CEO, I asked a question to you. I'm thinking that we're going to probably need to have a meeting, another special council meeting, probably Friday, most likely. Because I'm assuming that once you deal with the region and what we hear, what's going on from our other municipalities in the region and what the region's doing, and once we come up with some options as far as what we would like to do, council will make a decision. We'll need to make a decision before the 6th, so that way everyone has assurances about what's going to happen after the 6th and what we're going to look at doing long term. So when will we be getting to council and to the public that we will be possibly having another meeting?
Well, to you, Mr. Mayor, again, my intention when we scheduled this meeting was to have a more fulsome lay of the land even tonight. And you know, I guess at one level we can do whatever we want as an organization on our own. Certainly, we're not tied to anything that anybody else does, but there was an effort to try and have a coordinated approach, so that one municipality doesn't look to be, you know, way out at one end of the extreme or another as it relates to protecting their employees. So ideally, yes, we would do something before. We would have a position for council to consider by Friday. At this point, if we didn't, just mapping out the possibilities, we could simply come up with a scenario for another week for our part-time employees and communicate that to council as sort of an intended position. And then if it was worthy of a meeting, we could have a meeting. That might hold us over for a few days if we don't have the absolute details worked out. But it's a moving target because we're not sure what tools are available to us, and we're also all trying to go at this from a standardized perspective. So our hope is to have that decision made by Friday, I should say. So in which case we'd have to inform council by, Thursday morning at the very latest in order to allow for at least 24 hours notice of that meeting.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gardner, did you want to speak again? One sec, let me get you. This is your second time.
Yes. For clarification, if we hold a special council meeting Friday or Monday, it's going to be just to discuss this issue?
That would be correct, Councillor.
Okay, and that is we're waiting, and what we're waiting for really is the policy of declared emergency leave from the region?
No, sorry.
Mr. Sale?
Yes, sorry. Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, I don't want to make it seem like that we are, we could have our own policy right now. We could float something. We are trying to come forward with something that reflects what what all municipalities are doing and the way we're approaching this in the region. So there is some wording or some of the rules we're trying to figure out what declared emergency leaves and their applicability to a municipal environment and what that really means from a real employment perspective. It's not very straightforward. For example, if we did a layoff of any sort, and that right now we haven't been even talking about that, but this is how quickly this starts to spin. If you do a layoff, you start subjecting yourself to liabilities because those people can claim to be constructively dismissed in certain situations because we don't have a 30% decrease in our revenues. We're not a business, a traditional business. And so one could argue that we have ability to pay. And so we've constructively dismissed by deciding not to pay and to not. So these are all the things we're trying to sort out. So I don't want to make it seem like we're waiting for any specific policy or rule to come from anybody else. This is sort of in our hands, but as a collective, we're all trying to figure out how best to meander through this. And so that's really what I'm asking for, is just more time for staff to come back to council with an overall approach that tries to think of as many scenarios that we have in our workforce and have answers and a path forward for all of them.
Councillor?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, second time. One sec. Let me get you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Doug, you made reference earlier to the City of Toronto canceling all permits through the month of June. Are we looking at doing something similar? Because we do have permits issued for a number of third parties for events and so forth.
Mr. CL?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, until that announcement today, we had already decided that certainly everything for the month of April would be refunded without any charge, and that we certainly weren't going to do any events. Realistically, we were just trying to pin down a date, but realistically, as we sat here today before the Toronto announcement, we were already thinking that with the odd exception of something that we think we might be able to bring a virtual kind of spin to, but for the large projects, we were pretty much at a position where we think we might have to cancel everything until mid-May. So we'll now look at this Toronto announcement, and I think that actually this is one of the items on the agenda tomorrow with CAOs as well. It may be that we take a longer approach. I mean, with the facilities that we've shut down and some of the work that we're doing, for example, it'll take us 2 weeks to get pools even back up and running now because they're being drained, and so the whole startup process. So there'll be a phase in, but we do have to have some drop dead dates for the larger events that require a lot of pre-work. And so we will publish that very soon.
Well, I wasn't just thinking of town events. I was also thinking about the farmers market, the street festival, etc. There's a big impact there. And I think they need to know as soon as possible whether it's going forward or not.
So Yes, so beyond even that question, the general consensus is that even once these things are waived, that there's going to be huge reluctance of the public to, all of a sudden run to parks. And so we're all trying to figure out how to phase this back in. So we will attempt to get clear messages to all those groups as soon as we possibly can.
Councillor?
Yeah, because I even saw that I think Toronto canceled, their concerts in the park series, the TD Jazz Festival, and so forth. And so, it's something to consider how we're going to manage that in the summer too.
Absolutely.
That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? Seeing none, so I'd say that there's probably going to be a meeting. So because we'll probably have to make a decision on this. I mean, unfortunately, it's a delicate balance. We have to, obviously, we want to protect our staff, but at the same time, we have a responsibility to our residents and to the taxpayers, because our residents also, there's a lot of them that are being hit hard by this, and so we have to respect that and respect that money, and we have to make not only a fiscally responsible decision, but we also have to do what's best for the corporation as a whole and the town as a whole. So it's going to be a tough decision for us, but I'm confident that our CAO and staff are going to provide us with some options, and I think the region's working really hard, as well as the other municipalities, and I think we'll have something in front of us that will allow us to make a solid decision that will respect our employees, and yet at the same time be fiscally responsible towards our residents and the taxpayers. So with that, I am going to call the vote. I will unmute you all. Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Doing a recorded vote for item R1 on tonight's agenda. Councillor Humphreys?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
Councillor Gardner?
Yes.
Mayor Marakis?
Yes.
Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
And Councillor Kim.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. All right, Council, we're going to move to number 7, which is bylaws. And it's recommended that the following bylaws be enacted. Bylaws B and C, which is bylaw. Mr. Clerk, are you going to have those up?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we did add new business tonight. We generally do that before with bylaws. I was wondering if you wanted to do that first, or we could also do bylaws now too.
We can do, actually, let's do new business. It wasn't there, so we'll do new business. All right, so new business, I'll go around, and I'm going to go around by visually how I see everyone. So I am going to start with Councillor Gardner. Do you have any new business?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. It's been brought to my attention that other municipalities, to protect the residents, are covering up the buttons where you can change the traffic signals. Those are the buttons that are on the posts, so you can hurry up a traffic signal. The thought behind that is that they collect germs, and the public should be protected from that. So I'm wondering if staff could look into that, and if it makes sense that we could do that as well. It seems like a very small way to add extra protection to the public.
Okay. Mr. Downey, could you look into that? I just unmuted you, Mr. Downey, just to let you know. And is that something that we would have to get regional staff as well for any regional intersections?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. That's the first time I've heard of that, so I can check with the region to find out if they're taking any actions with regards to that. But one of the concerns with regards to that would be for the disabled. They would not know that those buttons were covered, so I do have some concerns with that.
Okay, if you can look into that, maybe you can get back to Councillor Gardner on that, and we can see if that's something that we can do. Councillor Gardner, I do agree. I've heard that some of the other municipalities are doing that, but if we can give maybe Mr. Downey some time to look into it and get back to you on it, is that good?
Thank you. I'll try and send Mr. Jennings some information as well. The other proposal is that some municipalities are reducing one of the lanes on their main streets so that people can walk and have that 6-foot distance. I think it's a great idea because as this emergency continues, people are going to start to go crazy just to be in their homes, assuming that the Emergency Measures Act isn't called, and they need their exercise. So something, again, to think about. I know that Calgary is doing it.
Okay. Is there anything else, Councillor?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Humphries, did you have new business?
I just, thank you to you, Mr. Mayor. Just in terms of the note that we received earlier this morning about a resident who shares a home with other people. She wants to do her due diligence in self-isolation, but really has nowhere to go. It's probably a story we may hear again. I just want to say thank you to Doug to get staff on it. It looks like we have nothing like this available, and just wondering if staff can maybe focus on this if possible to see if there's something we can come up with where we can help residents, especially seniors that, share accommodations and really are in a bind. I can see this could cause quite a serious problem. So I know it's more of a regional issue in a way. So if there's something we can focus or think of or come up with, that would be great.
So, Councillor, two things. I'll let you know that the Commissioner of Social Services has been notified. Betty did send an email to her as well, and I know Tasha as well sent an email out. So they're looking into it. Right now, they currently don't have any type of service for that, but I think that they're looking at implementing something to be able to house people that need to be isolated. But right now they don't, but she's going to get back to us as far as what they're looking at doing. And I think that our staff will continue to look at it. And I guess I'll throw it out there. We created the business task force. So we're going to be looking at creating a mayor's task force for vulnerable residents, seniors, and those experiencing homelessness. And so once we do that task force can look at dealing with this issue specifically as well. So I'll give you guys all more details on the public once that task force is created.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all for me.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo, new business?
Just thank you. Just on the lines of, I was mentioning to the CAO in terms of, decision making and under emergency status. I'm just curious to see your perspective on how we're going to move forward in terms of decision making, as well as decisions that have been made that would have normally been made by council, and how we're going to be reporting those. To you or Doug?
Yeah. Mr. CAO?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So certainly this ability to have virtual council meetings changes things up for us. So we are looking to move to eventually towards more regular business. I can tell you that, for example, the region is already planning their council agendas into May, and there's some regular business items on their agendas, and they are requiring some input from the local municipalities. And so we've been asked to make sure that we do our part of the process and bring those things before our council. So we do expect to figure out how to bring more business on a day-to-day basis to council for the decisions, for normal decisions. With respect to decisions that have been made, we are compiling the list as per your email earlier this week. There's very little on it, actually. I mean, a lot of the decisions that have been made are already, the authority already exists. So especially when some of the decisions are made around health and safety related items, that ability to delegate those decisions to the administration are already there. But certainly we will circulate that list of decisions that have been made during this declared emergency.
Councillor?
Thank you, and that's perfect. I'll just speak for myself that I'm willing to put the time in to have special meetings during the day, during the evening, whenever it's necessary to make the decisions. That's my preference, and I think we should actively move towards normality if this video conferencing is successful and we can make decisions this way. That's my preference.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kim?
Thank you. I guess a couple of items related. So with the parks closed, I noticed that all the parks have the yellow ribbons across the boundaries, and I noticed half of them have already been torn apart. Is there a point in staff going around and doing it again? I know City of Toronto and other municipalities are redoing them just to let people know that they're out of bounds, but are we just going to let it go because they're going to be torn apart anyway, or can someone speak to that?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Absolutely. We figured that they would be ripped down, and I have instructed staff to go out and inspect them and put the tape back up again if it is down. We will be developing a plan. We want to get back into playground inspections at some point. So there will be staff going to playgrounds on an ongoing basis, hopefully in the near future.
Councillor?
Thank you. And the second one is, what's our town position in terms of some businesses that should be closed are remaining open? Are our town bylaw doing anything about that, or is that are we just letting that go? What's our position there?
So Ms. Van Leeuwen, I'll go to you, but the bylaw is out and they're helping out, and when they notify YRP, and I believe it's YRP, but Ms. Van Leeuwen, did you want to add to that? Oh, we didn't have it. We didn't have your mic. Go ahead. Sorry, Mike.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, the province has extended authority to our municipal bylaw enforcement officers to enforce any orders that were made under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. So we do have that ability to take enforcement action, and we are responding to complaints. And our process right now is to start with education. So we will contact business owners and we will issue them an advisory letter. And hopefully we will see voluntary compliance. If not, we will follow up, and then we have the ability to lay charges under the Provincial Offences Act. So that is our approach right now. If we're seeing extreme violations, such as, because we have the ability to enforce the orders that restrict gatherings, public gatherings, as well as the non-essential business closures. So if we see extreme violations, we will be working closely with YRP on the enforcement of those.
Great, thank you.
Is that all, Councillor?
Oh yeah, I said thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looks like almost everything I was going to ask was asked by my fellow councillors, so thank you very much. I guess we're all on the same page. I guess one thing I just wanted to ask, and I'm assuming it's already being done, is I've had some residents ask whether or not, and I know what the answer is, whether or not you can walk or jog through the parks. And the question I'm asking is, are there signs that are posted that are pretty clear so people understand that they can actually pass through or walk through in these park areas, because they're very nervous to do so?
Mr. Downey, before you go, I'll add, you're allowed to walk through it as long as you follow the proper protocols when it comes to physical distancing. You can walk your dog. And I know it's a very fine balance that we're having to deal with as far as the messaging. At one point, we're saying that everything is closed, and at the other point, we're saying that you can walk through. At the end of the day, it's about the responsibility of everyone doing their part and ensuring that they stay within 6 feet from anyone else and adhere to those physical distancing protocols that are being put in place. So. And I think we've been trying to relay that message to everyone, but it is a difficult message when you're saying that you're closed at the same time. So, Mr. Downey, did you want to add anything to that?
I couldn't have said better, Mr. Mayor, so that was great. In addition, all the trails are open, so trails aren't an issue, but you described it extremely well, Mr. Mayor, as far as going through a park.
Are there signs though that say you can walk through with proper social distancing? Is there like a sentence that says this is closed, but you can walk through? I just have residents saying that they would prefer to have some sort of sign of clarity, and that I've had numerous people come to me and say it needs to be more clear posting, especially at Town Park in particular. A lot of people use it just to cut through, and I don't know if bylaw has been getting phone calls on this or not, but I would prefer that bylaw get calls on things that we're a little bit more rule breaking, I guess, to say, than someone simply just walking through. Is there signs?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, the signs are pretty clear that a park is closed. In fact, Town Park is a good example of there's no need to walk through Town Park. You can walk around Town Park. There's sidewalks on all 4 sides of Town Park. The bigger confusion is if you have a trail that ends at a park, you can walk through that park in order to get back onto the public sidewalk. But the parks presently are closed, and we're doing our best to try to keep as many people out of the parks as possible.
Councillor?
But you can walk through that middle ground of Town Park. That is something that we're allowed to do. Is that correct?
As the mayor described, we have no objection to people walking through the park as long as there's social distancing. But I don't believe there's a need to change the message in that if there was a barrier around Town Park, they could still walk on the streets around Town Park. So the concern is that we wanted to keep the trails open so that people could continue to walk, exercise their dogs, and that type of thing. So I don't know anyone who's going to object about walking through Town Park as long as social distancing is respected.
Councillor?
Okay, as long as the messaging's clear. I'm just bringing it to your attention that I've had a few people contact me specifically on that, and I just wanted to kind of confirm that you can in fact walk through properly with the proper messaging, and that was what the intent was. But I wanted to ask what if there was specific signage that was going to be posted, because I was requested to ask. So that's all. But other than that, I think everybody's asked all the other questions I had in mind. So I guess I'll move it on to Councillor Thompson, I guess.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, any new business?
Just a couple of questions.
Sure.
First, for those residents that either can't get out or have mobility challenges that are in need of either groceries or prescriptions or some of the essentials, if they were to phone the town, are we able to provide some direction on either organization, groups, or even assist them in doing so?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Oh, I was just going to start my video. There we go. Hi, through you, Mr. Mayor. We have created a community resource list that will be posted on our website very shortly, but our Access Aurora customer service representatives have that list and would be able to direct our residents to the appropriate resources available, such as senior support or housing supports or addiction and crisis support resources. So those types of resources. We do have a list and some contact information.
Great, that's good to hear. And then my second question really follows along with what Councillor Gallo mentioned. I certainly thought that now that we have a solution for our meetings, an electronic solution, that we would be getting back to our regular cycle for meetings, especially since, staff are working. I'm not sure why we wouldn't be. So if I'm hearing correctly, are we not having a GC meeting next Tuesday?
Mr. Seo? I'm on, there you go.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, through you, Mr. Mayor. So now that we've done this video meeting and we see that it certainly does work and is effective, we will now give our attention to how to move forward with regular council meetings. We have basically an agenda for a GC meeting kind of ready to go. Because we were ready with the next scheduled GC meeting when everything got sort of turned upside down. So we certainly have some items we could bring to a GC. What we haven't yet considered is public participation, what the process would be, whether whether we want to allow a period of time before a meeting for the public to send emails or to somehow correspond with council to get their thoughts on the table. So that part we will turn our attention to. We originally, because again, these meetings weren't available at first, we sort of said, okay, there's not going to be any council meetings. We'll only call them when we need them. So right now, in a formal way, we've canceled everything for the month, but we will confirm what go forward is from a GC perspective. Obviously, we won't meet our deadline. We would have had an agenda package to you, I believe, today for the next GC. We would have to look at what things on that GC we would still move forward with. So if you can leave it with us, we will endeavor to figure out what the regular council meeting schedule looks like this week.
Councillor?
Great. Listen, I know it's understandable. Happy to be flexible, but I'd like to see us get back to some degree of normality, if that's possible, sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gardner, did you have something else?
What Ms. Van Leeuwen said about the help that Access Aurora can provide. To you, Mr. Naderozny, is that up on the website yet?
Mr. Sia, are you talking, Councillor, are you asking about the, about like for help as far as any seniors looking for anyone, any help?
Well, Access Aurora is can direct our residents in need to include resources such as health support, financial support, shelter, mental health and addiction crisis, food bank, senior support. So I believe that was going to go up on the website. I haven't seen it. I just wondered through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. CAO, is that happening?
Mr. CAO? Oh.
Mr.
I didn't know
Thank you.
I didn't know you were still muted.
Yeah, so I turn it off right after I'm finished, just so that there's no interference. So sorry. Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. So we did say that we would be putting that list up. As we got ready to post it, there were some organizations, there was a couple of scenarios. There were some organizations that basically were at capacity and didn't necessarily want us to be posting and filling up their phones anymore. So we then decided we had to sort of scrub that list and make sure that everybody that we were about to put on the web was okay with how we represented their services on the web. Some prefer not to be put on the web that way and would rather have referrals, directly from our staff. And so there's a mix, and we're just trying to, that's why we said that we expect the list to be up shortly. It's after we have agreement from all the people that we can post their availability.
Thank you for the update. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Van Leeuwen, I believe there's a Facebook group called Shop Aurora or something like that that is doing shopping for seniors.
It's yeah, Councillor. It's a partnership between the town and the chamber, and the chamber developed a website that they put up. It's not just restaurants; it's for everything, groceries, like anything you can think of as far as businesses within the town, and they have that up on their website. So they're encouraging all their membership to put something up on their website so people can find out who's available to do contactless delivery or pickups throughout the town.
Thank you. I think this is just a group of residents and they're doing it as a volunteer service, but I'll see if I can find out some more information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So,
oh, Mr. Mayor, you should talk about perhaps about supporting local business and what the chamber is doing with that.
Oh, absolutely. I think everyone should go out and support local businesses at any chance we can get. Obviously, we want to respect the physical distancing. We want to make sure that everyone stays safe. And so, but there's a lot of local businesses that are providing contactless delivery or pickup. And so, I would recommend to any resident in this town that, take a look, see what's available, and and let's try to help out the rest of our community, our business community. It's important that we try to do what we can to help them out. So definitely, I did want to add just a plea, I guess, to April 1st is tomorrow. We all know that there's issues in regards to rents. I'm getting lots and lots of feedback from tenants that some, and it's only some. There's a lot of landlords that are doing some incredible work working with their tenants to provide them either with some relief, whether it's a deferral, whether it's just canceling monthly rents. But there's a few that are not even responding to their tenants. Their tenants are trying to reach out. And you know what? We all need to be there to help each other. It's about communication. And I just can't believe that people are not responding to their tenants calling. And so, it's just a plea for me to ask anyone that's watching, or anyone, if you're a landlord, if you're just respond, have a conversation with the tenants, try to work something out, because we're a community. That's what we're all trying to do. We need to work together through this. Otherwise, we're not going to get through this. The only way we're going to get through this is if we work together. And so it's just my plea to all landlords out there and as I said, a lot of them are doing some great work working with their tenants, but there's some that are not, and they're not even responding. And so to me, that's unacceptable. So I will end new business. We are going to move to bylaws. Mr. Clerk, we get that up on the screen. We got the two bylaws, B and C. Would someone like to move and second the bylaws? Moved by Councillor Humphreys, seconded by Councillor Kim. Council, before I ask anything for C, I think that maybe we should, and I just, for me, I think that we need to defer the wastewater rate increases for 60 days, similar to what we did with the tax deferrals, and then look at our wastewater and water to defer it or cancel the 2020 rate increases, but that would need to be contingent on the regional council deferring those as well, because if they don't, then we would be hit with that 9% increase regardless. And so if someone would like to put that forward for that one, that would be great. I think it's the right thing to do to allow for some flexibility for our residents when it comes to our water and wastewater. So I'll leave that with you guys for now, but we'll start with let's start with B. Does anyone want to speak to them separately, or do we want to do them together? Because we're going to do B. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Miss Desario to speak to it, because that one she just would kind of like give us a little summary of what's happening. So Ms. Desario, did you want to give us a little summary on bylaw to amend bylaw number 6212-19? Oh, let me get you. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So once an emergency is declared, according to the emergency legislation, the mayor may take actions that are not contrary to law. So this means that actions must be within, obviously, the municipal jurisdiction. The actions must also be to implement the town's emergency plan and to protect residents. So the intent of these proposed amendments to the town's delegation of authority bylaw is actually in alignment with the intent of the delegation of authority bylaw when it initially came to council back in 2019. And that is to capture all the powers, duties, and functions, even if the powers, duties, and functions already existed in legislation, and even if it didn't need council approval to be delegated. So the purpose of bringing forward this amendment is to clarify and consolidate these powers so that staff could only look at one document when looking to see whether a power, function, or duty is delegated. So in hindsight, this bylaw should have been, delegated authority in a declared emergency should have been brought forward back in 2019, but you just never think that something like this could happen. So the proposed amendments are not only for this declared emergency situation, but it's also intended to apply to future declared emergencies. And there may be an emergency that only impacts the town of Aurora. The past 2 weeks, decisions had to be made very quickly and almost on a daily basis. And that may be the same in any future emergency. At this time, as Doug had mentioned previously, most of the actions to date have been in accordance with authority that already existed, either in legislation or in the delegated of authority bylaw that was passed back in 2019, or in other bylaws that were passed previously, such as the parks bylaw. And then in other cases, the municipal issues have been minimized because of the provincial orders. But the town won't always have the benefit of provincial orders in an emergency that impacts only the town. So that is why I'm proposing to bring this bylaw amendment.
Thank you. And Mr. Sarah, just for everyone's knowledge, what's actually being changed? Because we do currently have a bylaw, right?
Yes. So I am proposing certain amendments. So for example, I'm proposing that timelines, time periods, dates, and restrictions, that they be delegated to mayor in consultation with the CAO to be deferred. So for example, the tax deferrals. There are some amendments for, sorry, I'm just gonna go to my sheet. For the, I am suggesting amendments to delegate certain LPAT matters, because there are some matters that are coming up, and this is only to defend matters or to settle them. And for this case, I'm particularly speaking about the Yonge Street Heritage ones, because those, as much as timelines have been deferred for Planning Act applications, the LPAT has sent us notices that in particular for anything before the Conservation Review Board, the procedural timelines will continue to move forward. And we do have some timelines in April that are moving forward. I'm also proposing some site plan applications for employment areas. And that's just to move forward certain applications. And then I'm also proposing real estate transactions. And that's because in general, we do have some contractual obligations right now, but also in general, in future declared emergencies, there may be times when we need to think about those types of transactions. And there is another one about applying for grants. Obviously, we technically don't need that delegation, but it's something that I just want to put in there again so that staff can see right away. And I think I captured them all.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gallo? Oh, one sec. Sorry, John. One sec. Sorry. There you go.
Thank you. I don't have an issue with 1, 3, and 6. It just captures all of them, but I definitely do have an issue with 2, 4, and 5. If any of those 2, 4, or 5, just confirmation, any of those already have delegated authority, or are they new?
Mr. Serio, is 2, 4, or 5, are any one of those new, or are they were already existing?
So 2 would be new. 4 is not necessarily new. 4 in terms of defending. I do have authority up to a certain limit, and settling. I do have authority up to $50,000, I believe it is, but not more. So it's somewhat new. And then 5 would be new.
Yeah, I suspected that. And based on the success of this meeting, Mr. Mayor and council staff, with all due respect, we can have meetings and we can make decisions. I just don't see the value in delegating authority on some significant items, particularly number 5, approval, real estate transactions, including waiving conditions and expropriations. I just don't see the value in doing that when we can meet. And while, I can't think of every situation that might come before us, we can have a meeting within 24 hours. And this has proven to be successful. So I will definitely not be supporting 2, 4, 5. I don't see why we need to do this, considering the success of this meeting. It just does not make sense to me. And they are new. And I suspected they were new. And if we weren't able to have meetings, and if this was not successful, then I would have no issues with any of those. But it's clear that we can. Clear that the authority should be amongst us, all of us. And I just don't even feel comfortable giving the mayor, the CAO, that burden either. It's a big responsibility if some of those decisions have to be made, and I don't think that's right.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. And the new bylaw revisions, were these written prior to the ability to have virtual meetings?
Ms. Desario?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, they were.
Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you. So given the fact that now we have this new ability, because we've enacted this tonight and the province has allowed us to hold virtual meetings, would it not be fair to maybe add some sort of clause or something to where council, we're not allowed, we cannot get together for certain circumstances, because now we can. So it almost kind of, I guess, be moot in a way, but if there was some sort of language where it kind of stated in circumstances where councils cannot meet, and so the fact that we can meet would allow us to make those decisions, but it just kind of gives that little added extra power when the authority is needed. If for some reason, all the internet was down and we couldn't move forward anything, we couldn't have virtual meetings, then I don't have a problem moving forward with these things. But now that we have this virtual authority, perhaps maybe that's some sort of clause that we could add in there to, if we were not able to conduct council meetings through virtual means and during emergency, then perhaps this delegated authority would be appropriate. Would you be able to change that?
Ms. Desario, would we be able to have 2, 4, and 5 just be enacted only if a virtual meeting could not take place? Could you do that as a clause?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, under delegation restrictions and other requirements, that could be one of the requirements. Instead of saying council shall be notified as soon as practicable, we can always say where a meeting is not available or not. We can come up with some wording.
Councillor?
So it would be specific to say, like, if council cannot conduct virtual meetings to move the business forward, then the delegated authority would persist, or something or other to that fact.
Councillor, I'm understanding from what Ms. Desario is saying is that if they could change the language so it could specifically state that what you're asking for, that if those ones would only be enacted if we could not meet as a council.
Perfect. Okay, I'm good with that. If we can change the language to include that language in there, I'm okay moving forward.
Okay. Mr. Desario, is that, well, actually, maybe I should ask the clerk, Mr. Clerk, is that something that we could do without making an amendment? Is that something that we would ask Mr. Desario just to change, or would we have to specifically put that into what we're moving and approving or denying tonight?
Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that an amendment be made, whether friendly or not, that we should put some direction and have a second clause to what's on the screen right now, that numbers 2, 4, and 5 only be enacted or applicable in a situation where council cannot meet virtually.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gillen, I'll come back to you because I'll let others speak unless you have some more questions right now. Do you have any more questions right now?
No, that's it.
Okay, so I'll come back to you if you want to put forward that amendment, but I'll let everyone else speak first before you do that, okay?
Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I'm in complete agreement with Councillor Gallo. I mean, the intent of the delegated authority is to enable the corporation to act quickly, to deal with the situation on the spot. In my own experience, I can't think of a single situation whereby the purchase of real estate, a site plan approval, or even an LPAT matter needs to be decided on the spot. Typically, there is negotiations or timeframes associated with it. Given the fact that we have the ability to meet electronically, I see no reason why that the delegated authority needs to be passed along. We can certainly deal with those situations as we always have dealt with them in the past. I'm not open to putting additional verbiage to define whether or not council can meet virtually. If council wants to go that route, I'd rather refer the whole matter back to staff and let them take a second crack at it, including what does that mean council cannot meet virtually? Does that mean immediately, or does that mean they can't meet within X number of days, or does that mean can't meet, period? I just find it's a little bit of gray, and I'd rather just send it back to staff, let them work on it and send it back. Otherwise, I'm not in support of 2, 4, or 5.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Humphries.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I complete agreement with my peers here. I think, again, based on this, that was written before we could do a virtual meeting. This would have applied for sure, but now that we can get together, they're not necessary. They can even be erased from this mandatory emergency situation. So I would suggest that maybe we send it back, remove these procedures, and just approve any emergency situations where the mayor and CAO need to take over. But regular business issues can be handled in the regular manner, just remote and virtually as we are. Thanks.
Councillor Gardner, then Councillor Kim. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I had written out an amendment. If council is unable to hold an emergency electronic meeting and the matter is considered urgent or time sensitive, I think that should cover it.
Okay, did you want, I'll come back to you because I'm going to let Councillor Kim speak as well before I
Yes.
entertain any amendments at this time.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Gallo, for pointing out 2, 4, and 5. And I'd be in agreement with most everyone, but specifically with what Councillor Thompson stated, that my preference also would be to just delete 2, 4, and 5, unless the verbiage is so exact and detailed to our liking. I don't see any situation where 2, 4, and 5 would take some period of time. I don't see any urgent need for that. My preference is just to take it out of the chart in completion and just vote on everything else. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Yeah, I'm actually very much in agreement. As these were changes that were put in before we were given the powers from the province to do remote meetings, and so I don't see the need for 2, 4, and 5 at this point. But I guess just a question. So maybe there's a reason why Mr. Serio feels that it needs to be in there. Mr. Serio, is there a reason why you feel that there's a need to have this in there?
All 3, 2, 4, and 5? I can only respond to number 4.
Okay.
The one having to do with the litigation or LPAT matters.
Sure.
And so that one is because of, as I was saying, the Yonge Street Heritage matter. There has been a settlement offer that has come in, and there's also timelines that have not been postponed from the Conservation Review Board, and those timelines are for April. And so it was just to move the matters forward,
Okay.
this particular matter forward.
And would these be closed session material?
Yes, they will be. If they do go to council, yes, it would be closed session.
So I mean, even though it's closed session, I still feel that we're able to get together. We have the ability now. Yeah, I'd be in favor of removing 2, 4, and 5 as well. Just take them out. That's the way I would look at it. So, but I will go back. Oh, Councillor Thompson, did you want to speak a second time before I look at amendments? Or did you just have your hand up there? Thank you. Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Humphreys, did you still have your hand up or you want to speak a second time? Thank you. Councillor Gardner, I'm going to go to Councillor Gilliland first. I know you were thinking of an amendment as well, but I'm going to go to Councillor Gilliland because she had an amendment first. So Councillor Gilliland, did you want to put forward an amendment?
Well, just hearing my council mates all around the table, and I guess kind of what I was saying with the virtual meeting thing, it kind of makes it moot. So, which kind of means removing 2, 4, what was it, the 2, 4, and 5, or 2? Is that what it was? Or 2, 3, and 5, whichever the ones those were. 2, 4, and 5.
Councillor Gallo, just give me a nod. 2, 4, and 5. Thank you.
So I would put an amendment to remove those 3 items from the chart here today.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Gallo. Speaking to the amendment to remove 2, 4, and 5. Councillor Gardner, did you want to speak to the amendment? No? Okay. All right, I'm seeing no comments or questions. So I'm going, oh, wait, yes, Councillor Gardner?
My little hand was up there. No, I agree completely. If we just remove those 3 sections, then it's done.
Okay, perfect. So I will call the vote on the amendment. It's in front of you.
Recorded vote has been requested for the amendment to bylaw B in tonight's agenda. Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Maracus?
You're muted, Tom.
When I went through everyone, I hit my button too, so I ended up muting myself. So yes.
Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Councillor Kim?
Yes.
Councillor Gardner?
Yes.
Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
And Councillor Humphreys?
Yes.
Amendment carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So back to the main motion as amended. Does anyone want to speak to anything else on B? All right, I will call the vote on bylaw B as amended. Oh, wait, Councillor Gallo, did you want to speak to bylaw B?
I want to speak to bylaw C. Just remind me.
I separated them to begin with because I know that everyone wants to speak to them differently. So we'll just vote on B right now. So B as amended. Mr. Clerk?
For a vote for bylaw B as amended, Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
Mayor Maracus?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Gardner?
Yes.
Councillor Humphreys?
Yes.
Councillor Kim?
Yes.
Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Motion carries. Excuse me, the bylaw passes.
Yay.
So we will move to bylaw C. Just wait for it to pop up on the screen. And this one is in regards to the water, wastewater, and our stormwater. It's not up yet, just waiting for it to go up. There it is. Councillor Gardner.
Mayor, I agree with you, what you said earlier, that we might want to defer this for a month. But as you also said, it's unless the region also makes the deferral, then the taxpayer will end up on the hook for this. So I think a month is fair. I do want to ask a question though. When we approved the budget, did we not approve the rate increases?
Miss Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, these rates reflect the increases that were included in the 2020 budget.
Thank you. So we actually already have approved them.
Miss Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we did approve them as part of the budget. What this bylaw does is it enables us to now apply these rates to the water, wastewater, and stormwater bills.
Thank you. Thank you. And I know these are very hard times and everybody's worried about their money, but we also need this money so that we could keep those systems functioning properly for the public. So it's a very difficult situation, but I think a deferral of 1 month will give us some time to try and figure this out.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. Maybe to the treasurer, whether 1 month deferral will affect anything?
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So a 1 month deferral, depending on which services it's applied to, has different impacts and different costs. So the stormwater rates, for instance, if we were to do a 1 month deferral on the increase to that group, it would be roughly about $52,000 per month that we would lose in revenue. So that would be essentially a reduction to how much we'd be able to contribute to the reserves for future stormwater repair and replacement work. When it comes to water and wastewater, we're still waiting to hear from the region when they finalize their bylaw, but right now under their water and wastewater financial sustainability plan, this year, effective April 1st, they will be implementing a 9% increase to their cost. The cost of water, the largest portion of it for water and stormwater is what we do pay to the region. In our budget, it accounted for 72.4% of our budget, how much we pay to them. And then they also need to work with their wholesale suppliers because they purchase water from Toronto and Peel as well. So I know they are having discussions, but we don't know what the results of those discussions will be until later in April when they bring it forward to regional council.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, this is, at least the first part is effective May 1st. So the 53,000 and 9%, I don't know what the total amount is that the amount of the increase that this bylaw is proposing? And if so, if we defer for a month, does that mean we're deferring from for the month of May and we would start in the month of June?
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel.
So the stormwater would be $52,500 roughly per month of deferral. So if we decided not to implement the charge effective May 1st, it started June 1st, it'd be $52,500 in less revenue. The impact on the water and wastewater is much more significant. So unless we have an actual offset and cost against it, for May, we're looking at a potential loss in revenue just from the increase for the water and wastewater charge of around $330,000, and then roughly about $190,000 in June. Now, those are based on estimated volumes from a 4-year history we've seen applying the increase to the rates. So it is a significant amount. Just for May alone, between water, wastewater plus stormwater, that's about just over $380,000 in foregone revenue.
Councillor.
So are we getting more information from the region whether they will adjust the rates for the water?
So, Councillor, I mean, Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel, you can add on to this, but regional council will be dealing with I believe we'll be dealing with this on the 14th. And Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel, you can add on if you'd like, but I know that regional council. So, I mean, that's why I recommended at the beginning that if, you know, I think that we should look at doing a deferral for the stormwater and the other one, and a deferral on the water and wastewater, and that it be contingent on the region deferring or canceling them as well. And I'll advocate as much as I can at the region to ensure, and I can tell you right now, Vaughan has passed something similar to look at and ask that the region defer or cancel those rate increases as well. So there'll be quite a few of us at the region looking for the region to make this change. So hopefully we can do it. I think if we put that clause in that we would do it only based on if the region does do the deferral or cancel. So, but they would be dealing with it on the 14th.
Yeah, so we have some time before at least May 1st, and I suspect between the 14th and the 1st, we might have another meeting and we can make a final decision there. So I'm happy to defer this until that time. Also, at least because of what's going on now, I don't know if we need to approve 2022 and 2023 just yet either. The bylaw anticipates all 3 of those years. So my preference would be to defer until we hear from the region and make an informed decision, and not necessarily approve the next 2 years.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. I have Councillor Kim next.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to you, Mr. Mayor, when is the next region meeting?
Actually, we have a meeting this Thursday.
Okay, but it's not going to be this Thursday that you're talking about potentially canceling or deferring the water and wastewater. It's going to be the following in May.
On the 14th, so the week after. So it's we'll be dealing with it, but I can guarantee you it will come up this Thursday at some point. Whether it's like any other business, like our new business, it'll come up. I'm sure someone will bring it up, either Mayor Bevilacqua, even myself, or maybe some of the other regional councillors. Someone will bring it up, and I'm sure there'll be some kind of a discussion about it, because I think that everyone feels that there's an urgency to look at figuring this out.
Okay, so would it be best then, you're saying that it's likely going to be discussed in a couple of weeks. If it is discussed in a couple of weeks, is it best to have, as Councillor Gardner mentioned, maybe a deferral for 30 days, or is it recommended to have a deferral for 60 days until we know for sure what the region's going to do with respect to canceling or having the 9% rate increase?
Well, I can tell you that Vaughan passed a 60-day deferral. They also passed to actually cancel the 2020 rate increase for water, wastewater. And that's without being contingent on the region. It might be. I'm still trying to look through, and I haven't talked to Mayor Bevilacqua yet as far as the specifics. So it might be dependent on what whether the region defers it or not. But they did have a clause in there to ask for the region to defer or cancel those 2020 increase rates. I think that we should be looking at doing the same thing, and just make it dependent on whether the region actually does the deferrals or not. So we wouldn't be moving forward with the deferral unless the region agrees to it, and they defer those increases, and then our motion would kick in. That's what I would recommend. But obviously, it's up to all of you sitting at the table.
So, Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel, is that what you would recommend?
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, I would recommend waiting to see what the region does. If the region decides to do a deferral, then I recommend that we forward that on and follow the suit with the same length of deferral that the region would do. And then that we could pass that savings along to our taxpayers, or to our ratepayers. One option that is available to us now is the stormwater rate, because that is not dependent on us purchasing service for this from the region.
Okay. So through you, Mr. Mayor, then, I'd recommend, a motion then to, regarding the 2020 stormwater rate, the increase be deferred for 60 days, and for the 2020 water and wastewater rate increase be deferred for 60 days as well then, or cancel for 2020, and that these options both be contingent upon the region's decision to defer or cancel the 2020 planned 9% increase.
So that's you want to make that amendment?
Yeah, and also that the town of Aurora request the region to cancel or defer the 2020 planned 9% wholesale water and wastewater rate increase as well.
Okay, so Councillor Kim, just like I did with the last one, I'll hold on that amendment because I have two other councillors that want to speak. So I'll let them speak, and then I'll come back to you to put that on if at that time you want to, and I'll ask for a seconder. Okay?
Sure.
Okay. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Listen, we all understand that it's difficult and challenging times. We want to do whatever we can to kind of alleviate some of the pressures our residents are having. And so in principle, I'm supportive of the idea, just like I was supportive of the idea of the tax deferral. However, what I'm not getting is an overall sense of the financial outlook for the town. It's my understanding there was financial implications for the deferral of the property taxes. We're now talking about the financial implications of this program. Furthermore, we haven't made any decisions with regards to staffing going forward. That's still an ongoing conversation, and I don't know what, if any, financial implications there are to that. We can pretty much anticipate lost revenue for the town going forward as a result of many of our programs not being able to move forward. So, what is the financial outlook for the town? Are we running a deficit ourselves this year? I don't know that, and I would like to have that information before we make this decision on how best to move forward. Councillor Gallo pointed out that this isn't effective till May 1st. We know the region is going to deal with this matter, as you said, on April 14th. I'd prefer to revisit this issue later in April, once the region makes their decision, and perhaps staff can give us a little bit more details about where the town stands financially going forward, because I'm not sure. And if we're going to run a deficit, then I think we need to know that before we make any decisions.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gardner, you took away your hand. You don't want to speak now?
Gone.
Did you want to speak?
I thought actually that I had a motion on the table to defer for 30 days. But listening to all of the comments, I think that we should revisit this. The rates are not going to go up till May the 1st. So we're not going to be affecting the residents for the next month. So I do think we need to come back and revisit this and see what the region does and make our decision on how long we would want to defer the rates.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I would like to see what those financial implications are, and I think we really need to put a date on it and bring that back to a future GC in April. Would that give us enough time to be able to address our decisions with respect to what the region's decisions would be timeline-wise, if we were to say to a future GC in April, Mr. Mayor?
Well, we would defer to a council because bylaws get dealt with at council. So it would be to a future council meeting, so which would be hopefully the end of April.
Okay, so we would have time, like we would know the region's decision by then, and if not, we can make another decision come next council meeting. So I would like to see a date put on it to the next upcoming council meeting, so it gives us some time to collect some more information and as Councillor Thompson was saying, maybe produce a report of what those financial implications are, and it kind of gives us a better idea of what we're looking at and the kind of rebates that we can offer moving forward.
Okay. Councillor Gallo, second time. Oh, 1 sec. Sorry, Councillor Gallo, go ahead.
Yeah, I would agree with the deferral. I think we have time before May 1st to make a final decision, and I would also agree that we should get a report with a snapshot of the financial position of the corporation as a result of this pandemic. I think it's incumbent upon us to take a look at where we stand. There may be a lot of guessing, but at least let's get something going.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gardner, you've already spoken twice. So I'm going to go to Councillor Kim. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Did you want to just defer it to the next council meeting, or did you want to go ahead with what you're?
No, that's fine. I mean, whether we defer it to another meeting, it's not a big deal to me. I'm happy to not put it forward. I guess through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel. We're at a time where sovereign governments, whether it's the Americans or the Canadian federal government, they are literally winging it. It's not a great formula, but in extraordinary times, their first priority is helping their residents get through because they're going through a disastrous period. And not even the Canadian federal government understand exactly what their net debit position is going to be at the end of this year. So my question to you, Madam Treasurer, is I know our finances are a lot more simple, and we only have one course of revenue. So how quickly can you provide us a financial snapshot of what our financial position would be, and how realistic would that time frame be?
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So it'll be a fairly rough estimate, but we could look at bringing something back to a GC in April. We'll have to make some fairly broad assumptions on what those estimates will include. So we're going to have to try and start estimating on what is the impact if we have to forego revenues on recreation until the end of May, end of June. Like, it depends on how the situation fluctuates. So that's going to be part of the challenge as well. We could definitely take a look at what the implications of some of these water rate changes could be if we have changes coming from the region versus what we do as well. So from the water perspective, it might be a little bit more simple. From a tax side, it's a bit more complex just because there are a lot more moving parts. There's also assumptions on development as well. How is that going to progress throughout this year? It's possibly going to have significant impacts on next year's budget, depending on the level of assessment growth we've received this year too. So we're starting to look at all those things, but we can look at more of just a near-term forecast probably for April, and we'll have to start looking at something a bit longer term after that as well.
Okay.
Councillor?
Yes, and through you, Mr. Mayor, if Ms. Van Kessel, if you could provide us with 2 or 3 different conservative, moderate to liberal scenarios, that would really greatly help us out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Did you want to put the deferral on, or did you?
No, I'll pass on that for now.
Okay. Councillor Gardner, you've already spoken twice. I see your little hand there. I can't. Councillor Gilliland, second time.
Lower. I'm sorry, I didn't lower.
Oh, okay. Councillor Thompson, second time.
I'll move the motion that's on the screen, the motion to defer. Well, it was on the screen.
Was it on the screen?
It was.
So you'll make an amendment to defer this? What is it? You're going to defer it to the next council meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so a motion or an amendment to defer to the next council meeting. Who would like to second that? Councillor Humphreys. Any other comments to the amendment? I will call the vote. I'm going to unmute you all. Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Record a vote for the deferral of bylaw C to the next council meeting. Councillor Gardner?
Yes.
Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Councillor Humphreys?
Yes.
Mayor Maracus?
Yes.
Councillor Kim?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Council. So we go back to the bylaw as amended. Mr. Clerk?
No, we deferred it.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. All right, Council. Confirming bylaw. Someone like to move that? Councillor Humphreys, second. Councillor Gilliland. Comments or questions on confirming bylaw? Seeing none, your mics are all still open. I'll call the vote. Mr. Clerk?
Record a vote for the council confirming bylaw this evening. Mayor Maracus?
Yes.
Councillor Gardner?
Councillor Gardner?
Yes.
Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Councillor Humphreys?
Yes.
Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
And Councillor Kim.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Council, motion to adjourn. Mover? Someone like to move? Motion to adjourn?
My hand is up.
Everybody's hands up.
Should I freeze up here at the end?
Oh, the mayor froze. Tom,
I guess I froze up at the end.
Yeah, there you go. You're okay now.
I'm freezing up?
Yeah, we can see you now. You're moving. You're moving now.
One sec.
He doesn't want to end the meeting.
How's that?
Maybe the clerk can just call it.
You sound like a robot.
How's that?
Perfect.
Better.
Is that better?
Yeah.
I'll move to adjourn.
No?
Second.
Hold on a second.
You see that?
Okay, I heard Councillor Gallo moved, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor, just put your hands up on this one.
Or we could just do reactions.
Tom, are you frozen again?
We just do
Yes.
reactions.
You
Tommy's
better upgrade your internet. Oh, he just dropped.
You just dropped. We're good to go.
Thanks,
I
everyone.
wasn't
Okay.
expecting that one, but I think it's fair that the motion would have passed and the meeting is now concluded.
Yeah.
Everybody's hand was up. Thanks, Mike.
We're good,
Thank you,
Mike. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone. Bye. This was a good first meeting like this.